So, words for reflection for this multi-generational service day. There were no children's classes in church on that day, so to the service the kids came along. They sat with their parents right in the pews and listened as the service went on. In one of the pews sat a small girl named Jane, yawning a little Jane yawn. And on the service went, and on and on and on. And on and on and on it went, and on and on and on. And on and on and on and on. And on and on and on. The first thing that came was singing a hymn, so music was peaceful and calm. Well, not here, but at least not today. And Jane sat and wondered about this big church as the singing went on and on. Where did it come from, this grand old church, so large and so beautiful and so strong? How did it get here and how was it built? How could it stand here so long? Some people must have started with an idea, a building to sing their life's song. They gave it their money, their love, and their hearts, and made a place where all could belong. Amazing, she thought, as the reading began and went on and on and on, that the dream of those people could live with us now and be part of what we live upon. And then came the offering, where the organist played a long and beautiful song, and Jane was thinking just to herself, boy, asking for money sure goes on and on. And then she remembered the time she got sick. She was feverish and tired and drawn, and those people from church had kept calling and calling to see if the sickness had gone. It was kind of like church had come right to her house. Her mom and dad sure felt cheered on. They'd talked for weeks about how good it was to have hope when they thought hope was gone. And then came the sermon, and it went on and 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 on. And Jane thought of her town with its beauty and pain and the people in bad situations, the people in trouble in the country and state, in the country, in every nation. Some people are lucky. They've got families and friends and houses and kitchens and irons, but others are not. It just turned out that way. They've got little to trust or rely on. If I were in trouble, I hope I'd be helped, thought Jane, whatever the reason. I hope that someone would see me and care, not ignore me like nobody sees them. But that's what they do, these folks in this church. I've seen them in every season. They've rebuilt old houses. They've worked in soup kitchens. They love them. They clothe them. They feed them. And as the minister continued her sermon, Jane had a strange new sensation. She realized that church doesn't stop at these walls. It goes out in every direction. It's the work of real hands, the love of real hearts that make a church living and strong. The church is these people who shine with a light. They shine on and shine on and shine on. And on the sermon went, and on and on and on. And on this church will go. Come along, come along, come along. Now, it's my opinion that today a lot of little sermons already happened. So, let me see, where did I put mine? It was here a minute ago. So I feel like I'm going to need to shorten this little sermon so we don't go on and on and on past lunch. The words of meditation ended with, to attend to ourselves is essential for the sake of the world. I think that was right. So last week I was talking about how in the Jewish tradition the year starts twice, once in the spring and once in September or October, whenever Rosh Hashanah falls, Passover and Rosh Hashanah. And just last week was the last day of those 10 days of the Jewish High Holy Days. Yom Kippur ended last Wednesday, and those were days to get one's life back in balance, to make amends, to ask forgiveness, to align one's course with higher values in order to move forward centered and whole. In the religion of Islam, in its truest sense, it's a religion of moderation and harmony, of balance, even though, like in any other religion, readers may interpret the scriptures in different ways. Scholars point out that the Quran warns believers to beware of extremism in your religion and point out that Muslims are expected to be a justly balanced nation. Words that come to mind when I think of balance are grounded, whole, stable, maybe safe, like not about to fall over and crash. Balance is something that dancers work on. Both partners need to keep their balance in order to do their jobs, one to follow and one to lead. And if either partner is off balance, one or the other of them might miss a step or a turn or go the wrong direction. And if it's a complicated move, someone could get hurt, right? The leader's job is to perform certain tasks that tell the follower what move is coming up next. And if for whatever reason the follower doesn't accurately execute the anticipated move, it's not the leader's job to apply force to redirect the partner. Although I do see that on the dance floor. They say you should never learn to dance with your partner. At that point, though, the leader, who should never have a tight grip, you don't hold on like that, but you hold like this so that people can move. The partner adjusts and says, oh, not turning this way. Okay, I'll just kind of stand here and mark time, keep the rhythm while you twirl around, and when you come back, we'll continue the dance. There's a dance metaphor in the Hindu religion. One of my favorite icons is the god Shiva. Shiva stands poised in perfect balance as the Lord of dance, setting in motion the rhythm of life and death. Shiva's body is the body of the universe, both the creator and the created, both the destroyer and the destroyed. And then we come to another source that we draw on, the spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions, which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. They call us to honor the spiritual significance of season changes. And so, at this season of the Autumnal Equinox, which happened yesterday, when the hours of daylight and darkness are fairly balanced, balance is an appropriate topic. They're fairly equal. I'm reminded of the ways that we're encouraged to keep our lives in balance. The balance of work and play, of diet and exercise, of give and take, of change and staying the same. This is an ever-present struggle, right? In our professional and personal lives, in our spiritual and intellectual lives. And yet, balance is not a static place. It's a place from which we take the next step or make the next move. So we strive to achieve balance so that we can continue to whirl around the dance floor. In Truth or Dare, a book by Starhawk on power and authority and mystery, she describes a ritual reminding us of the balance we must find within ourselves of mind, energy, emotion, the body, and the cycles of time, dawn, noon, twilight, midnight, spring, summer, fall, winter, of all of the progressions and the returns. It made me think of a time that I attended a youth conference back when I used to do a lot of work with youth in our denomination. It was in Oregon, and I had never been to Oregon. They took us into a pine forest, and we were staying in a Methodist church camp. And on the first evening, when I really hadn't figured out where I was, we were led down a path through the pine trees, and we came out on a beach I didn't expect to see. And I'd never seen a beach in the middle of pine trees. And our leader that night was Nick Page. Do any of you know of Nick Page? So Nick Page is a 5th or 7th generation Universalist from New England, so deeply steeped in Universalism. And he's an amazing singer and song leader. He leads power sings, and he was making the UU circuit for a few years, filling halls and General Assembly and teaching people to sing and feel the power of singing. So anyway, we're following Nick and some folks, and there's some little bit of drumming going on, and we follow them out onto this big flat beach, and we sit in a circle, and the drumming is happening, and we're watching the sun go down in the Pacific Ocean, and all the colors are changing in the sky. And as the sun just, got the last little piece down into the water, I turned around and looked behind me, and there was this big, giant full moon coming up. And I didn't realize it was the night of the full moon, and I didn't realize that this whole event had been carefully planned and choreographed for us as a ritual. That didn't take anything away from the power and the beauty of being in that space with people that I loved to be with and experiencing the beauty of nature. If I leave my pages, I have to figure out where I am. So you could call that moment anything you want, but for me, it really was a deeply spiritual and moving moment. And I think that moments like this are really important for us to have balance in our lives and to be centered. In that moment, all I had to do was just be quiet, just sit there and take it in, to pay attention, or in the language of Thich Nhat Hanh, to be mindful and aware of what was happening around me and within me. Being present in a moment is an opportunity to balance ourselves and get away from the distractions and the busyness. It's an opportunity to realize what gifts are out there for us that we didn't deserve, we don't have to work for. They're just there. And they can help us have a sense of stability, knowing that there's always that time when we can catch a sunset or a moonrise or shells sparkling on the shore. And the moon rising was a sign that the sun setting was not the end of the day. The moon was rising, and we were energized for the next steps. So energized that as the moon came up, the group began chanting and singing, and the drumming got faster and faster, almost like a frenzy of dancing and celebrating the moment. Tomorrow, I intend to be on the beach. Hopefully, it won't be raining and cloudy, because tomorrow there should be a sunset and a full harvest moon coming up, and hopefully I can position myself just right to catch that. There are a lot of places in our lives where we can practice balance. Sometimes I think people at work feel like if they don't get there before the boss and leave after the boss, they'll never move ahead. Catching a sunset is a guilty pleasure, not to mention spending time, maybe a Saturday or even a weekend with their family. And we balance our needs to create justice and our acknowledgement of our contribution to the inequalities in society with our own needs for self-care, as we said. It's essential that we take care of ourselves as well. I think that that's a particularly strong tension for Unitarian Universalists. It's been mentioned, the ritual of the recognition of the lynching victims in Escambia County. I thought that was beautifully done. I thought there was a very intentional balance of attending to the issues of injustice and the need for action with also the spiritual dimension associated with the pain and trauma of those events. There was beautiful singing, and it was just it was a sacred moment, a moment to be present and aware of what was happening. And the obvious recognition in the way that the people who came present to protest, obvious recognition that it wasn't just about the activism. It was about the way we act. The people who came to protest, as we've heard, were treated with extreme respect. And what they suffered or believe happened was honored because they are human beings with inherent worth and dignity. How we model our cherished values and how we respond to the universal call to live from love, to recognize that each person deserves to be treated as if they had a right to be here, or, honor what other people think, even though it's different. It doesn't mean that we have to allow or permit destructive behavior. We're hearing about that, too, today in the little mini sermons here. Because we don't honor the bad behavior or encourage it. We work to create justice and to set boundaries. And we consider the worth and the dignity of the people who also fall victim to that destructive behavior. It's all a balancing act. The more centered and balanced we are, the more we can contribute to the greater good. Sometimes we have to work a little to clear our emotional body of regrets and guilt and shame and anger and bitterness or any other destructive feelings that have accumulated, and they have the power to sometimes make us sick or create other kinds of chaos in our lives. But cleared of those destructive forces, balanced and centered, we have a better chance of moving forward, grounded in our better selves, our higher values for building a better world. And just as a side comment, yesterday after I'd been thinking about all of this, I heard Gary Ferguson, the nature writer, being interviewed on NPR, and he named 3 qualities that have come up several times today that are necessary. He says he's listened to storytellers around the world. 3 qualities that come up universally that humans need to live well in the world: beauty, community, and mystery. Sounds like a great trinity for Unitarian Universalists. A mindful awareness of our relationship with the beauty often found in nature, a sense of belonging to a community of people faithful in their commitment to justice and love, and the willingness to live in mystery. Willingness to live in mystery. Do you know how huge that is? And acknowledging how partial is all that we know. These 3 things were certainly present for me in the experience I described on the beach in Oregon. In the future, I'll be watching for more opportunities to open and center myself in the beauty, community, and mystery of life. May it be so.